As markets continue to slip, I've got a question I think a lot of other people are asking. Are altcoins about to see a bigger plunge to the downside? We'll talk about that and a lot more. We got Caleb Franzen joining the show today, talking a little bit about stagflation. Are you worried about stagflation? Well, you found the right channel. We're going to ease your fears today. Don't go anywhere, though. This is the Investing Bros. Let's get it. What's up, boys? What is going on? Look at this nice like outdoor studio we got going on. You know, obviously the T-Stream always has that majestic background, but
right.
Caleb Franzen out here in the nice, cool Eastern Europe air, kind of lauding it over us. How are you doing today, Caleb?
Doing good, guys. I arrived in Montenegro yesterday. The weather's beautiful. It's a great city that I'm in here in Budva. So stoked to be here, have a nice balcony. So I'm trying to take advantage of it as much as I can.
You're doing great job of that. Very good job. T-Shroom, how are you feeling today?
Well, Tim, believe it or not, I'm feeling better than I deserve, which is really good. And I do have a quote of the day here. And this is from Bill Watterson. Bill Watterson said, that's the difference between me and the rest of the world. Happiness isn't good enough for me. I demand euphoria.
Oh.
Sounds like the markets, doesn't it?
Is Bill Watterson the guy that wrote something Hobbes?
Calvin and Hobbes?
The comic book. Calvin and Hobbes, the comic book. Is that the same Bill Watterson?
Not sure.
Is it?
I think it might be.
I used to read that growing up. Great comic, by the way. If I had it in my home, I would read it today.
I actually have a collection of them.
You do? Okay. Is it Bill Watterson? Am I getting that name right?
Yeah.
It sounds really familiar.
Yep. You got it right, Tim.
I think so. All right. Well, it makes sense. Yeah. I told
William Boyd Watterson is an American cartoonist who authored the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. And Bill Watterson, Bill is a common shortening of the name William here in the United States of America. So
drop a 1 in chat if you guys grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes, or even if you read it as a full-grown adult and have no shame. Drop a 1 in chat. I told you guys right before we got going, today was almost a $10 day for the community over in Discord. Every day I miss a workout, I pay someone in Discord $10. It's my form of accountability. I woke up with like a scratchy throat, and I heavily considered paying someone $10. And I said, you know what, Tim, you little punk, you little wussy, get your butt out of bed. Who cares about scratchy throats? Go to the gym. It was not my best day in the gym. I will say that. But it beats not a day in the gym. So, sometimes you just got to push on through it. I'm glad to know, though, that everybody here is doing swell.
He was watching Goggins. You, Tim. The spirit of
I
Goggins.
feel like he runs 100 miles uphill in the wind, in the rain, snow, and burning hot sun, barefoot with a fever on his normal day. That's just like a normal Tuesday for him. Yeah. Well, let's start off here. Let's introduce the charts. Let's come and look at what crypto's doing. But then I want to start into conversation before we actually go into like price action and stuff. We have a couple big winners. It's a sea of red for the most part, but you do have a couple little greens here and there. Rune and Caspa, though, kind of taking over our top two movers. 12%, or 12.5% for Rune. I don't want to gyp them at all. And Caspa, the coin that everyone has been saying is gone and dead and not doing anything, up 9% today. So you love to see that. Those of you who have continued to hold on to Caspa, good for you. We are going to be talking a little bit about the rest of the altcoin space, though. Are we about to see a bigger dip necessarily? Let's take a look at the top 10 and see what's happening there. Bitcoin kind of flirting with 62,000. We have dropped below 62,000 today, kind of to levels we told you yesterday. Don't be surprised to see Bitcoin kind of flirting with the 61.7, maybe even get down to 61.5. I don't think we've gotten that far just yet, but that's kind of something we prepared you for yesterday if you watched the live show. Down 1.5%. Ethereum back down to 3,000. It's down almost 2%. BNB 0.66. Solana, big loser here. Does look like the top loser of the top 10. Down 5.27. It is going to be one of the ones that we take a look at. Is there further downward action coming? XRP down 3.4%, Dogecoin 4%, Toncoin only down 1%, and then Cardano wraps out our top 10 down 2%. We'll take a look at a lot of those when it comes to the charts. But let's start off with good old Caleb Franzen over here. Caleb, of course, I follow. He's one of the top follows you guys could have on X.
Absolutely.
If you're not following him, you're making some massive mistakes. I saw a couple interesting tweets from you here recently. First of all, the way you scam scammers, or the way you go back at scammers, I absolutely love this. Let's see if I can actually find it. Don't share my screen just yet here, T-Shroom, but I want to bring this up and just.
I got it.
You have the tweet?
Yeah.
Oh, there. Okay. Well, you're on top of it. I love this. Scammers be scamming, and I be plotting on them. Is this your normal response? What is this your favorite response you've ever given to a scammer, or do you have a couple other go-to responses?
Sometimes I'll just respond GFY. I won't say exactly what that means, but I think you guys can interpret it.
It's not that
but I like to have a little bit of fun. I like to say my audience isn't for sale, because they're not. There's a lot of, I won't get down the rabbit hole on this, but a lot of people in this industry tend to take advantage of the positions that they get in with their followers, and that's just not what I'm here for. So I like to have a little bit of fun. I'm probably getting 3 of these types of DMs every single day.
Yeah.
And we got to strike back. We got to fight the good fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely every single day lots of stuff coming via Twitter, via email, via a lot of stuff, and it is the season of the scamming. So be careful out there, everybody. But you know what else is a season of right now, and you've been kind of addressing this on your X account. It's the season of FUD. It's the season of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And one of the biggest words being utilized to spread said FUD is stagflation. Now, you are probably one of the top proponents of helping educate people on what stagflation is and what it isn't. Can you briefly just kind of go into and educate our audience here? We've talked about this before, but anyone who's newer here, what is stagflation? What is going on that's getting everybody up into a hissy fit at the moment? And why should people not be so worried about that word coming to the United States?
Okay, let's answer the last question first. Why should people not be worried about it? First of all, the people who are trying to make you worried about it are the same people who have been trying to make you worry about it for the past 18 to 24 months. They've been extremely wrong about stagflation. They've been extremely wrong about the direction of inflation. They missed the entire disinflationary trend throughout all of 2023, kept trying to tell us that inflation was going to reaccelerate or that it wasn't falling. And that was complete bullshit. Excuse my language, but it just was. And so that's number one, in my opinion. So what is stagflation? I guess I should have addressed that first. Stagflation is high levels of inflation and or accelerating inflation coupled with low or anemic GDP growth, right? Or even outright contraction in GDP. So you could even think of it as being a recession with high levels of inflation. And so as part of that graphic that was just up, it was also showing high levels of unemployment as well, right? Because typically every recession or period of low growth is also coupled with a period of rising and or high levels of unemployment. So when we look at the environment that we're in right now, we just got the latest Q1 2024 real GDP data that came in at 3.0% on a year-over-year basis. That's certainly not low or anemic levels of growth. In fact, if you look back over the past 10, 12, 15 years, that's on the higher end of growth, right? So I think that's first and foremost. Second of all, inflation has mostly just been kind of stabilizing at or around these same levels for about the past 4 to 6 months. And we also have 3.9% unemployment. So none of those levels, at least as far as I'm concerned, are reflecting, at least right now, any sign of stagflation. We talked about it on the show last week. Jerome Powell in the FOMC press conference said, I don't see the stag and I don't see the inflation. And I think he's absolutely right about that.
Yeah. Why do you think it's such a heavy push? Why do you think there are so many people trying to push this narrative that America is entering in or about to be in stagflation?
I think it's convenient. I think it's something that a lot of people can kind of wrap their minds around. It's really hard to wrap your mind around disinflation. Throughout all of 2023, while we were experiencing decelerating rates of inflation, everyone was still trying to tell me that inflation was rising. Inflation was not rising. Prices were still rising, but the rate at which they were rising was actually slowing down, right? And so this conversation requires a lot of nuance. And I mean this in the most respectful way, but there's a lot of people who are macro tourists. They're not actually macroeconomists. They're not actually, they haven't done the work to really understand these topics. And so they know it at a surface level, but as soon as you try to start going into nuance, they're in over their heads. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back about this at all. I'm still learning every single day. But I think a lot of people are talking about stagflation because it's a risk that a lot of people can easily wrap their mind around. And it sounds very intense. It sounds very fearful. and it induces a
Yeah.
lot of emotions about what's around the corner, what's next, and what that means for people's portfolios as well as their livelihoods. And so I think a lot of people who literally make a marketing decision to be bears and permadoomers, this is something that is easy for them to kind of point to sell their course, their subscription, their solution, right? They create the demand for their own services. It's a cheap way about going about business, but it's this whole industry is rampant with it. It's basically the Peter Schiff model.
I think that's a great point right there. Yeah, it's hard to sell a fixer when there's no problem. So you got to create a problem so that you can sell your fix to it. I think you're seeing similar things kind of happen in the crypto world, on the sense of, we've come past the halving event. Bitcoin and crypto hasn't done much. It's slightly gone down, but as a whole, we're kind of in a very boring sideways phase right now. I've kind of been echoing this, but I think people are just so badly want to see some massive explosion either to the upside. So people are going to start talking about like, oh, Bitcoin's about to take off. Just you wait. And then there's other people saying, oh, that's it. At the end of the bull market, Bitcoin's heading back down to 16K. And it's like, no, I get why they do that though, because sometimes it's harder just to look at the facts and say, oh, this is kind of boring. There's nothing to talk about right now in the sense of explosion. It's always fun when Bitcoin goes up 20% in a day or falls by like 15%. It's like, oh, this is exciting. Okay, we got something to talk about. But it's really hard for some people to sit back and say, all right, there's no real new crazy good or bad information out there. How do I create entertainment and excitement? I got to say something crazy like stagflation, or I got to say something crazy. I got to scare people, or I have to excite people. And in reality, the market's really not in an exciting or scary place either way. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think when most people think about the term capitulation, they really think about capitulation in terms of price. I think you can also think about capitulation in terms of time, right? If we go through weeks or months of kind of sideways action, right? Yeah. I mean, think about this current pullback, right? It's pretty much been almost 2 full months of sideways action. We've had a significant decline within that, right? Bitcoin falling from basically 74,000 all the way down to, what do we get? 56,500 at the lows. Yeah. So I think off the top of my head, that's basically a 20% decline, a little bit more, a little bit less. But here we are, right? 62,500 essentially. These are prices we were dreaming about a year ago. And here we are. And the market is bored. The market is trepidatious. Investors are feeling concerned. There's a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation because there's not misinformation, but there's a lot of FUD about, whether or not this bull market is over and the peak is in. Yeah. So, I think a lot of people also forget about this kind of time-based capitulation side of things as well.
Yeah, I love those memes. If you scroll through like Twitter or something, it's like the memes. It's like 62,000 back at the end of February, and it's like Sydney Sweeney or somebody, and then it's like 62,000 now, and it's like this really old lady that looks like she's been on drugs her whole life. And it's like, yeah, like sometimes you just got to zoom out, and like people freak out because we're not at 73,000 anymore. And it's like, in reality, just go back 3 months. You don't even have to go back that far. Not even a full quarter of price action, and you would be over the moon with these current prices. I think it's good that people kind of take that into perspective as well. And something we've said before here on the channel as well, when it comes to the inflation numbers and stagflation, everything else, I think there is a little element of like, hey, sometimes the numbers that get reported aren't necessarily telling the whole story. I think everyone does notice things are still getting more expensive. We're not trying to deny any of that, but markets move. And I say this time and time again, it doesn't matter what your personal story is about how inflation is affecting you. Markets move based off of data. And whether you agree with the data or disagree with the data, that data will have the impact on the price. It doesn't matter your personal opinion. It doesn't matter if you think we're in stagflation or if we're doing fantastic. What matters is what pops up on those sheets when Jerome Powell goes to the podium and when Chicago does all of their reports and Atlanta does their reports. Whether it's true or not, in a certain realm, if you're investing, isn't important. What matters is what's on those sheets, and then you invest in it based off of that numbers.
And if the market believes it.
Yeah, if the market believes as a whole. And most times the market do. I mean, I think most people do believe those numbers. I think maybe crypto people don't always believe those numbers, but remember, there's a much bigger world than the crypto community. I think we forget that sometimes. We're very small. We're still very small. And again, we showed that video yesterday. Caleb, did you see that video of the commencement speech, the commencement speaker at Ohio State? and like he's getting booed. And I'm like, if anyone's wondering if we're still early and if this is the explosion of the bull market, that right there shows you the masses are not ready for Bitcoin. They're still fighting it. That is proof that we're not at the top. Even back in 2021, everyone's grandma was asking them in October, November, how do I buy some Bitcoin? So at the peaks, the masses seem to love it, or at least they're not afraid of it. It's during bear markets or the middle of bull markets when things aren't exciting yet that people still try to act like crypto and Bitcoin are stupid and you're going to lose all your money. That's some great evidence about where we are in this space right now.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Tim, really quick, hold that thought. Speaking of which, a good way to know, when we're in that hyper euphoria phase where everybody's grandma and their niece and their nephew and the skater punk down the street is trying to get in on the crypto bull rally is when Coinbase is in the top 10 apps that are downloaded on the App Store. And as of now, I don't even think that it's in the top 100. As you scroll through, you don't see it here in the top 100. You do see eBay, Messenger, Google Drive, Spotify. But once Coinbase gets into the top 10, and eventually it may even get into the top 1 for a day or multiple weeks sometimes, that is an indicator that way too many uneducated investors are getting into the space with the weakest possible hands you could imagine. We're talking not even paper. We're talking like really, really even weaker than paper, like floss hands. And so they get in, they get their crypto, and they immediately sell for a loss because they're very fearful. And to be honest with you, rightly so, because they just bought the top. But we don't see Coinbase in the top 10, and that's a pretty good anti-topping signal for sure.
I agree. Before we get into some altcoin discussion, and again, because the title of the video that we have going on is, I've been looking at some altcoins, and I think there's a decent chance that some altcoins, whether they need to go back down to their previous wicks on this pullback or whether they're going to set new lows for this pullback, not bear market, but just this pullback. Before we get there, I want to throw it to Caleb and see, Caleb, are there any charts that you're watching right now, whether you want to show the Bitcoin chart, do you want to show stocks that you're watching right now that are interesting and kind of give you a depiction of what the market looks like? Feel free to take it away and show us what you think is looking important.
Awesome. Let's start with this chart here. You guys keep asking me over the past few months that we've been doing these consistent shows on Wednesday, what's kind of my downside target? Where would I be looking for Bitcoin to fall in a consolidation? I kept saying, keep an eye on the short-term hold the realized price. And sure enough, that's exactly where we fell into. Right on that short-term holder realized price. We did not get a daily close really below it. I guess we did for one single day, but we immediately snapped right back and we defended that level, right? We've been able to rebound on that level so far. And this short-term holder realized price, first of all, what is this? It's measuring the aggregate cost basis of all Bitcoin that have been transacted in the last 155 days. Why 155 days? I have no idea. It's less than 6 months, but it gives us a really good sense for short-term market psychology because it's literally measuring what are investors anchored to in terms of price dynamics and where is the actual price trading relative to their anchor, right? And so I think that's super important. So Bitcoin historically uses the short-term holder realized price as dynamic support during bull markets, dynamic resistance during bear markets. So long as we're in a bull market, which I continue to think we are in, we should continue to use the short-term holder realized price as dynamic support. Does that mean we will always defend it perfectly? No. Look at this breakdown that we had here in August, September, and October of last year. This was a bit of a concern for me at the time, but I said, if and when we can break back above that level, we're back into a massive risk on environment. Sure enough, we got that breakout basically above 28,000. We all know what happened after that, right? Yeah. Did you have something on that, Tim?
Before you move on, I'm interested because what you're looking at, can you go back and use that same chart? Can we look at what it looked like 2019, 2020 into the 2021 bull market? Oh, yeah, okay. This is still on TradingView. Okay, yeah. I'm interested to see how many times we flipped during that period of time. Because like you said, during bull markets, and you can see it there beautifully, like in September area, we bounce on it one more time, and then the real bull market takes off. But we definitely went below it here for a time period before even COVID. If you go back even a little further, I think. Yeah, because I see that in there. Yeah, right there. You can see back here, I think that's going to be somewhere in September, October of 2019. We crossed below it, and you have a period of time that things are bearish. Again, this is the time period that Bitcoin it ran up like 350% from the bear market bottom, fell 50%, And then, of course, started a rally. COVID threw things, threw a wrench in the whole metrics, but it was going to fall 50% before that or not. I'm kind of a fan of saying I think that the 50% dips on Bitcoin during bull markets are over. I don't think we're going to see that again. I kind of think, especially with institutions being here, it's looking a lot like 20 is the new like 40 or 50 for Bitcoin. But I think it's interesting. Even if you look at that historically, I just want to preface people, even if we lose that line, I still don't think that's a reason to jump on the bandwagon of saying, oh, here comes new lows. Bitcoin's done. We're going to go down to new lows. That bull market's over. Because we've seen that happen before.
Yeah, exactly. We can have these breakdowns. I think for me, what it would probably represent if we do get a breakdown below this level is that essentially the best of the bull market is probably behind us until we can get back above the range, right? So the beautiful thing about these types of dynamic indicators is that they are just that. They are dynamic. So we can change our positioning within the market depending on where price is relative to these dynamic levels, whether we're talking about the short-term holder realized price, whether we're talking about different moving averages on different time frames. All of these are dynamic indicators for a reason, and we should use that power to our advantage and basically be dynamic with these dynamic indicators. That's the beauty about them, right? So, I wanted to start off by highlighting this because, this has been arguably one of the most important on-chain metrics that I use on a frequent basis. And so far it's continuing to work in this market environment, which I think is great. Does that mean it will continue to work? Like I said, no, we could see a breakdown below that level. And like I said, if and when that does happen, I will get much more defensive in this market. But like I said, I'm not going to get bearish, right? Just because we break down below that. So I think that's very important. Let's go and talk a little bit more just about Bitcoin, and then I want to jump into Solana. So I want to highlight this. This is something I've been talking about. We are now trading below the 200 moving average cloud on a 4-hour time frame. Why is this so important? Because we can see very clearly during this bull market, we've been using this as support, using it as support, using it as support. I have some other notes on here. I should delete those. When we fell below it, we briefly used this as resistance during this period, struggled here in late January, and managed to break above in February, and we were off to the races once again. The concern that I have in this market right now is that not only are we still trading below that range, but we've used it as a resistance once, twice, and now potentially for the third straight time. Yeah. I really want to see us break above that level. The other reason why I want to see us break above this 200 period moving average cloud, again, we're looking at this on a 4-hour candle basis, is because it would also coincide with a breakout of this channel right here. I thought this was a kind of unique channel, right? Because we're not starting from the actual bull market peak here. But the one thing that I really liked about this is it really sets us up for a parallel channel here, right? So we don't have a wedge, we don't have kind of a pennant pattern. We really do have a perfect parallel channel, which price is adhering to both on the upper and lower bound. And so if we can get a breakout above this channel and above the 4-hour 200 period moving average cloud, I think that would be a great sign. But again, that means we really need to get above and hold above 65,000. We tried to get that wick here. We weren't able to hold it. And so, pressure is on the bulls here to defend this move. And we kind of, we're making some lower lows here on a very short-term basis. Low here, low here, low here. All of those are making lower lows. So we need to see some conviction come back to the upside. I'm feeling optimistic here, much more optimistic than we were on this call last week. But we need to see bulls really kind of grab this market by the horns, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've been talking about, and we kind of prefaced earlier in the show. It's true. Yeah, bulls need to, if we want to see new highs, there are these resistance levels above us that bulls need to recapture, and they might do it from time to time. But what are we watching right now? We're seeing this ping pong of news go back and forth. We drop really low, and all of a sudden, boom, good news. Markets can go back to the upside. Everyone's like, all right, here we go. New highs coming. And then, bam, as soon as the momentum gets going, there's something bad that comes in and stops it. These are the types of things that happen during these sideways price actions. And if you want to put a tinfoil hat on with us and call it manipulation, go for it. If you want to just say it's a coincidence, go for it. I'm kind of just sitting here saying, well, historically, this is like what we always do. So coincidence or not, it's something to definitely keep an eye on. This is really good stuff here, and I love getting you to come on here and show the moving averages and stuff. I try to do moving averages from time to time. I need to do them more often because they are extremely helpful. Is there anything else that you've been watching before we get into some altcoin TA?
Solana, right?
Let's look at Solana.
Yeah.
So, Tim, I know you had to jet out early last week, but after you did,
Yeah.
I was talking with T Shroom here about a position that I had just taken right at 121 because we came into this kind of demand pocket that I was looking at, right? Essentially speculating on the fact that we were going to flip former resistance into support. I couldn't have asked for much better of an entry on that. I sold a third of my position at basically like 142. And then I actually added back today just above 145. The concern that I'm having right now with Solana, despite the fact that I even added to the position today, is we kind of had this mini support pocket here, which is now flipped really into resistance. And, we wouldn't have known this without the hindsight that we have today. And in fact, I would maybe even say we should bring this down just a tad so we can include this wick right here. And we're essentially getting rejected right on that range once again. And so as far as I'm concerned, we're kind of in no man's land here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of pressure come into the market. One thing I want to highlight here, instead of looking at the 200-day moving average cloud, one of my favorite analysts on Twitter, he uses this 100-200 moving average cloud. So he looks at the confluence of both of these levels basically as a pocket. And so what he's really been focused on, and what I've kind of learned from him, is what we want to be involved with right now as much as possible are the altcoins that are still trading on or above their 100-200 daily moving average cloud. And so Solana fits that bill right now. There's not many that are fitting this bill right now. We have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, we have Solana, we have the AI tokens, and we have memes, ironically enough. And so outside of those major themes and outside of those major tokens, like let's look at Link, for example. You're going to see something very different. We'll look at another one. Not only has Link fallen below that 100-200 cloud, it's also using it as resistance. That's a bit of a concern. Let's look at Avalanche, another one of the top tokens. That's doing the same thing. We've broken below the 100-200 daily moving average cloud, and now it's actually using it as resistance. These are much more concerning charts than something like Solana, where, like I said, we now have the opportunity to continue to hold this as dynamic support. I'm certainly a little bit concerned that, like I said, we're flipping this former range here into resistance. I want to see us really break out of that. One thing that I would be looking to do here is I would be looking to draw a fib from those lows to these recent swing highs. And then what I'd be looking to do is I'd add on a 50% pocket. For me, if and when we get back down to 137.5, that's going to be the next level that I'm going to be looking to add to this position in Solana. Like I said, I did add again today at 145, so I'm probably flat or slightly underwater on that today. But again, like probably my cost basis now on this is like 125, 126. So I'm feeling really good about this, and I'm continuing to look to add. So like I said, 137.5 is probably the next level I'll get involved.
Nice.
Makes a lot of sense.
Some good entries there.
Yeah, Thanks. I think there's a lot there that kind of comes into a similar mind. I'm just blanked on the word I wanted to use. Mindset as what I'm going to be talking about here, because I've noticed, and not all altcoins, so don't take what I'm about to say and say, Tim said that all altcoins are about to drop blah, blah, blah %. But I'm seeing consistency with some coins that I think have the realm to all drop similar percentages. And this goes back to, something that I'm really been kind of hammering home. Me and Benjamin Cowan. There's other people out there talking about it, but I feel like Benjamin Cowan and I have been two people. And to be fair, Ben Cowan does it way more than I do. But talk about Bitcoin dominance still going up. You want to share my screen here, T-Shroom?
Yeah,
I have my moving.
This Benjamin Cowan right here.
That's the Benjamin Cowan. Right
Everybody's
there.
favorite Benjamin.
Everyone's favorite Benjamin. So I've been watching, we've been talking about 60% dominance for a while. Here more recently, if you look at the weekly chart and you're looking at candle body closes, Bitcoin set up a nice ascending triangle. We had that flat top kind of hovering right around 54.1%. Yeah, we had some wicks go above it, but could not close a candle on the weekly chart above it until here back the first week of April. Now we just came back down, bounced on that same support level, and are moving back to the upside. Well, what happens when this chart goes to the upside? One of the things you have to look at is say, all right, what is Bitcoin doing? Well, Bitcoin is moving slightly down, lower highs, lower lows, but mostly sideways, right? So if this chart, Bitcoin dominance, meaning of all the money in crypto, how high of a percentage does Bitcoin hold? If Bitcoin is doing this thing where it's going sideways, that means the altcoins have to continue to bleed. And especially when you take a look at the big, powerful ones that have the biggest impact on the Bitcoin dominance, you got to keep an eye on Ethereum and you got to keep an eye on Solana. These are the two highest. You got to look at BNB as well, but these are the two highest ones. You're not going to get a lot of help from USDT. USDT is it's not the right time for USDT to lose market cap. That'll happen closer to. It'll happen later in the fall, like not quite the top of the bull market, but closer to the top. But for now, I'm kind of sitting here watching. Again, if I'm looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, and my perspective is this chart is moving to the upside, in which case, even when you pull up the charts like Lux Algo, we've come down here recently and we hit the smart trail concept. I kind of was explaining this. I made a video that's going out at 6 p.m. about ICP, what ICP can do here in a little bit. So I'm not going to do ICPTA in the show today, but I did educate. The smart trail concepts, guys, are like relevant moving averages. That's why I need to use the normal moving averages more often. But ultimately, these smart trail concepts are pretty much saying when you're above it, what's the best moving average to look out for support? And when you're below it, what's the best moving average to look out for resistance? That's ultimately what it's saying. And you can see here, we hit our take profit on the sell order. We hit the order block. We are bouncing off that smart trail concept. There's a lot of things showing that this chart's going up. And of course, if this chart's mostly going sideways, we hit our take profit on Bitcoin. We have a lot of reason to potentially go sideways. The logical explanation is some of these coins, and we're going to take a look here, are going to move to the downside. Now, Ethereum is going to be in a special case here. I don't think Ethereum necessarily has to drop that much. Why? Well, we have already hit the take profit. You can see we're kind of bouncing here more recently. This orange line is the 155. I like the 155. We could drop all the way down to the 200 and come down to the lower level of this the lower level of the take profit down below 2,700. This would be a fallback for Ethereum. A measly 9%. That's decent, but nothing scary. Let's see what the let's see what the oscillators are saying here. As a whole, mostly sideways, rejecting on the mid levels, and again, positive money flow right now. So I don't think we're gonna get the big boost from Ethereum. Is my overwhelming point here. I think Ethereum and Bitcoin are going to probably stay more than likely together. So now becomes the equation: what's going to bleed to cause Bitcoin dominance to go up? And you got to come over here and start looking at coins like, well, what's the number 4 altcoin right now behind BNB, obviously, as well. But you got to look at Solana. And as Caleb pointed out, a lot of good things here for Solana. But Solana did something here over the last week that almost no other project did. Let me turn off Lux Algo for a second just so you can see this clearly. After coming down and hitting levels that we called here on the channel, I remember we told you guys, watch out for 120. That's going to be a major zone of support. We've now bounced on that level twice, bounced on the daily 155, but then had a decent little upswing. Solana went from 120 and rallied 33%, 34% to the upside. What that means is Solana might not drop back below 120, but it could easily, look at the rising 155 and a rising 200 on the daily. We easily could see a nice little 20% pullback from this high. If I come back here, back down to those levels, 22, 23, 24%, somewhere in that range. This is still doable for Solana, and it's not even setting a new low for this cycle. However, now you start to get into the other altcoins, and Caleb briefly mentioned them. This is where I think I'm believing that potentially we still have lower lows to go on this little bearish trend for some of these other coins. Chainlink, right here. We bounced off support levels we told you to be aware of, but we still have a lot of support and take profit levels back down at below $11, $10 give or take. Again, you start to look at the percentage of this. If Solana's dropping that far, how far would this be? Oh, would you look at that? Kind of close to it, a little higher, but 27%. That's a pretty normal looking thing. You're going to see the oscillators kind of saying, stochastic RSI on the daily chart, a little overextended. Rejection on the 50. The MACD cannot build any bullish momentum. And the money flow, after finally going positive, we're seeing momentum start to flip back over to the negative side. So I'm not really seeing a lot of good stuff there. You come over to Cardano, and this is, again, depending on who you are on the channel, some people's favorite, some people hate it. I'm looking at Cardano and saying, all right, guys, look at what we're doing. We've had a nice pump actually today, back up to 46. But we have a descending level of resistance we're about to run into, this yellow line right here. As Caleb said, we are down below the 200 and the 155 on this one, meaning this is in a bearish spot right now. And when you turn on these take profits and you look at some levels down here like this order block, I think there's an outside chance we see Cardano, even if it pumps into this yellow line before this happens, has itself a nice fall down. How much of a fall would that be? I think we're going to be looking here. I want to make sure I say it correctly, but we're going to be looking somewhere in the category of, oh, look at that, mid 20 percentile to the downside. I could keep going. You're going to see this on ICP. Again, I made a video about it. I'm not going to do too much TA right there, but you guys can see lower take profit levels. You're going to see it on AVAX as well. Again, you don't see these massive rallies like we saw on Solana in these bounce back opportunities. You see a lot of negativity and predictions for new lows on this bear trend to come into play for altcoins. I'm not saying that I think that people need to run for the hills. I mean, if you want to trade these altcoins and maybe take profit right now and wait for a lower dip, go for it. Please don't do that with your long-term bags. I've seen people make the mistakes. I've made the mistake of saying, oh, I think everything's going down. So mathematically, if I sell a lot of things in my long-term holding portfolio and then I buy that lower, I'll make so much more money. And then something changes, some new story comes into play, buyers come into play, and your analysis goes out the window. But what I am saying is if you're sitting here and you have some dry powder and you're using this accumulation phase that Bitcoin's kind of in and saying, when can I get into some of these altcoins? We're seeing a lot of signs based off the Bitcoin dominance chart to the Bitcoin chart to some of these top altcoins saying it's very realistic we could see 20% dips on alts, whereas Bitcoin and Ethereum, I told you Ethereum maybe 9%. Bitcoin, I think there's an outside chance we retest maybe 55,000 again, in which case we're talking about a pullback of 13, 10%. That's not nothing. But if Bitcoin falls 10%, 13%, and altcoins are falling 20, 30, that is the recipe for the Bitcoin dominance chart moving to the upside. So we're starting to see a lot of the stars align right now, that this is maybe not the most optimal time or price level to be buying into the altcoins. Now, I just went on a long kind of wind there, long thought there. What are you guys thinking? Does that make sense? Do you guys agree with that, or is there something you guys seeing different?
T-shirt, take it.
Yeah, no, I'm basically on the same wavelength as you, Tim. Is like, I think we could see an opportunity to buy lower. We've been getting lower highs and lower lows on Bitcoin throughout this channel. It was a descending wedge. We've broken to the upside of that descending wedge, which is nice. But where's the breakout, right? So I would say we could see cheaper altcoins. We could see them, before the weekend, and even into next week. We might see continued discounts on the altcoins. What I've been saying on the 9 a.m. stream is, if you don't have any exposure to altcoins and you have been invested in Bitcoin for longer than 3 months, you feel as though you have educated yourself adequately, you understand that venturing into the altcoins, there are more scams, there are more ways to lose your money and your funds and your wealth, and lose your cool, because altcoins are more volatile, then it might be time. If you've counted all those costs, you've considered all of the risk management that goes into getting into altcoins, then it might be time to go ahead and get some exposure. Again, this is for folks who don't have any exposure. They have no Cardano, no Chainlink, not even any Ethereum, but they've held Bitcoin for more than 3 months. They're ready. They're ready to go in and start picking and choosing what are some altcoins that might be a great addition to my portfolio. However, if you don't meet that category and you're in the altcoins and you're losing money, pause your operations, reconsider why you're going into the altcoins. And, more directly to your point, Tim, I think that we're going to probably get a good discount here coming up, but get a little bit of exposure and then wait, 25% now maybe, and then the rest of the 75, if we get a nice dump, 5, 10, 15%. So yeah, patience is the name of the game. The investor with the most amount of patience is absolutely the winner every time in every market. Patience is the name of the game.
I want to make sure before we move on to the next topic, I think it's about time to get into some news stories here. I want to make sure people understand what we're not saying. We are not saying that new lows are coming for the bear market. We are not saying the bull market is canceled. We are not saying that this is 100% going to happen. I see a comment in here. Christopher Brown, Shout out to Christopher Brown. Love the honest feedback. He says, but earlier they were saying up from here. Now they're going back. Can't stand these YouTube people.
Neither can we.
What people? No, here's the thing. First of all, make sure you listen to what we say on timelines, because I have not gotten bullish on altcoins. I haven't been bullish on altcoins for a little minute. I'll trade them up and down. But the other thing is saying I can say something goes down and also say it goes up in different time frame. And the third thing I'll say to that option is maybe you can't stand these YouTube people. Would you rather, though, follow YouTubers? Let's just say yesterday I came on here and told you guys I think altcoins go up. And then today I come in and say I think altcoins go down. Would you rather follow a YouTuber who sticks to his previous statement and refuses to change his mind, and then all of a sudden the altcoins go down and you weren't prepared for it? Or would you prefer to listen to a YouTuber who takes in new information, takes in new data, and changes their minds to make sure that they try to lead you the best way possible? To me, I'm taking the second. But, to each his own, Christopher. If you're tired of YouTube people, go make your own X account then. If you don't like YouTube, go on X.
Go check out Rumble. The crypto analysts on Rumble are going to be way better fit for you, more than likely. Well, you hinted at it, Tim. It is time to go ahead and jump on into the news. Let's go ahead, though. First, if you are not following Caleb over on Twitter, you're missing out. Follow him here on X, formerly Twitter, at Caleb Franzen. You just click the link. There's a first link in the description. Whoa, this is the video I'm watching right now. Wait, the link's just right here? Yeah, it's all you have to do is go down to the description, and you'll access the golden links right here. Also, you'll access his Substack, if that's something you're interested in as well. T-Shroom, should I be interested in? You absolutely should be interested in the Substack. Nice. It's a lot of fun. You'll also notice here, iTrust Capital. iTrust Capital is who we trust with our crypto IRA, our tax-advantaged account for holding crypto. It's going to be the way that you can go ahead and knock off a ton of taxes that you don't have to pay if you keep all your crypto in an IRA. iTrust Capital, link in description. You're going to love it. Free $100 for those of you who sign up and fund your account. Well, let's go ahead and jump on into the news here. Why don't we, bros? Grayscale withdraws Ethereum futures ETF application to the SEC, and right now, the crypto community kind of holding their breath, trying to figure out exactly what's going on here, because this was not something that anybody was anticipating. The news was broken kind of here by James Seifert, or at least brought it to my attention. I don't know if you broke it. But an update on it. This is interesting. Grayscale will withdraw their 19B4 filing for an Ethereum futures ETF. Oh, goodness. This was essentially a Trojan horse filing, in my view, in James's view, in order to create the same circumstances that allowed Grayscale to win the GBTC lawsuit against the SEC. Approve futures, deny spot. So there's a lot of layers to this, and if we could break this down and get a little bit deeper into it, I didn't really break this down too much on the 9 a.m. stream, but what I'll say is that I think in real time the crypto markets are trying to sort this one out. I do think that this is why we're seeing a little bit of a sag in demand today. Investors are kind of staying on the sidelines, scratching their head. What's going on here with Grayscale? They're a big whale in the space. They've been dominant in terms of being able to steer the narrative when they get the window, when they get the chance. So the fact that they're kind of removing, playing defense here is really what this can be seen as. Why are they playing defense? What do they know that the rest of the market doesn't know? And what could be next here? So I want to break it down. Tim, Caleb, have you had any time to kind of meditate on this one? What could be going on here? James Seifert has provided some theses, but he admits that he really doesn't know. He's just guessing.
I'll let Caleb go first if you have any thoughts there.
This is news to me. So,
okay.
I'll be pretty honest. This is going to be extremely low on the totem pole for me and kind of how I'm approaching the market right now. So it's good to know. Does it change anything for me personally? No, it does not.
Yeah, I don't think it changes a lot. I think it's interesting. Again, it's one of those things of, we thought that this was going to be a repeat of the Bitcoin situation, and it's looking like the answer is no. What I saw in an interview last night, I can't remember the guy that interviewed him, but I think it was on MSNBC. Did you see the video, T-Shroom? And I'm assuming if Caleb's saying this is news to him, he didn't see this one. But did you see the video where they pretty much point blank asked Gary Gensler? They said, so you went before Congress and you were asked, do you think that Ethereum is a security? And you didn't answer the question. And now you're coming out at the most inopportune time for Ethereum holders saying that you think it is, do you not see that as a sign of misleading and manipulating the price? They pretty much point blank ask him, did you manipulate price? And Gary, you got to give it to him, because you would think that any person would squirm in their seat and be very uncomfortable with that question, because you're pretty much accusing them of frauding the market and frauding the users. And he pretty much gives this very political answer that says, we are not going to discuss ongoing investigations. He said, so like pretty much we will mislead the people if we have investigations going on, because we don't want to play our hand. Equivalently, what he said was, we didn't say it was a security because we didn't want to play our hand. We were investigating it. And it's like, I mean, I'm not an expert on what goes into what the SEC is supposed to do and whatnot. I guess I haven't read any guidelines or any rule books or anything. But if they're supposed to, again, if their role is supposed to be protecting investors, why would they hide that information from us? Let's just assume Ethereum is the worst thing ever and it's the most dangerous asset you could ever invest in. Why did they hide that information for so long?
Yeah. I mean, the mind is boggled by the way that these regulators are approaching the market. There's such a wide range of what is possible here. In the lack of transparency, this is a classic showing of of why transparency in government is important, because the left and right limits of what the SEC is thinking industry-wide in crypto is so vast. There's legitimate arguments on the tinfoil hat side, and there's legitimate arguments just right down the middle of Wall Street that are like, oh, well, you know, Gary and Gensler and the SEC, they're just doing their due diligence on a new industry, and they're doing it through lawsuits. So it's like that to me is also not completely out of the ballpark of the realm of possibility, but it's so easy for me to just take those shoes off, take that hat off, and put on the tinfoil hat and be like, no, these guys are like in lockstep with the Illuminati, right? Trying to shut down with Operation Chokehold, trying to shut down crypto itself. It's like, it's just the mind boggles of what the motivations are. And, you know, this man here, this is particularly an image of him at MIT lecturing on Ethereum and Bitcoin and blockchain technology in like 2017. And it's like, and it's unbelievable, because he does understand the power of this, but I don't know. It's strange. And I don't think we're close to really understanding the SEC's positioning here quite yet, but
T-Shrim, do you want to, if you want to go to my screen really quick, this was something I came out with on January 9th. Gary Gaslight Gensler. So I thought this was really funny, and I thought it was going to go a bit more viral, but you know, it is what it is. And funny enough, it's literally the same photo that you were just showing from the MIT. So
yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, but overall, with this one, it's really a head scratcher. So James Seyfert, his theory here, he said that the approved futures deny spot, again, setting up another legal showdown. This is a good sign. They're not going to pursue a lawsuit this time around, so he tweeted. But one thing to keep in mind, bros, is that there is already a Grayscale Ethereum trust out there. And I believe that this is on the futures, meaning that the trust holds futures. I could be wrong about that, though. It could hold spot Ethereum, and that could easily be the case. But it gets complicated here, and it's almost maybe not worth thinking or talking about much, because we don't really have answers. We don't really have solutions, and that's why we're seeing, what we're seeing on the charts is just a lot of market participants kind of just staying on the sidelines, just kind of with their arms folded, just like, well, we'll see kind of what happens in the next quarter. We'll see what happens, when the quarterback decides to call the play and something shifts here. Then we'll allocate accordingly, and that could mean remove their allocation. That could mean sell, depending on how this goes. So, it's uncertainty, and it's uncertainty in kind of the wrong direction. But that doesn't mean that price goes down, that conviction is lost for Ethereum in general. Because if you zoom all the way out, I did not buy Ethereum with the anticipation that there was going to be an ETF one day. I bought Ethereum because it is the backbone currency of the future of Web3. Full stop. Right? There are others. There are Solana, there's Cardano, there's AVAX. There are alternatives. And now Bitcoin kind of emerging with a pretty robust layer 2 ecosystem coming in the future. But Ethereum, far and away, Web 2 leader. It's not going away. It's only going to get stronger. Spot ETF, futures ETF, or not.
I agree. I agreed with Caleb said it earlier. Ultimately, I think ETFs will pump Ethereum's price, but I don't think that it's going to be like, oh, there's no ETF. Okay, dump the price of Ethereum. Ethereum's still going to be heavily utilized. And remember this is another one that we haven't heard a lot in the last month about this, but we do know that BlackRock very much likes Ethereum, and BlackRock wants an Ethereum ETF, and they have a ridiculously high win rate against the SEC when they apply for things. So I don't know if they've officially applied for it yet or not, but as long as they have applied for it?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as long as there's an application from BlackRock, I'm going to continue to have high betting odds that eventually, maybe not 2024, maybe all this crap ends up dragging into 2025. Maybe it drags past the job loss from Gary Gensler. Maybe we have to get rid of Gary Gensler before we get an Ethereum ETF. But I'm kind of still in the boat of this Ethereum ETF is going to happen. The question is when, not if. That would change if for some reason BlackRock changes their mind. That then kind of hurts the wind in the sails. But until that happens, you should still remain overwhelmingly positive an Ethereum ETF is coming.
Yep. And let me make clear, because we are kind of in the headier realms here of, Wall Street and financial law and how all this kind of stuff works. I don't want to pretend like what we're talking about is really simple and we understand it 100%. There's a lot of gray scale areas here. So the futures ETF that were brought off out of application today by Grayscale, those are futures ETF. Those are the ETFs that were passed last cycle, last bull market. It's a little bit curious why they're trying to introduce this in the first place, why Grayscale would apply for a futures ETF for Ethereum, but perhaps that is a product that does not exist. And it was an element that helped in the Grayscale Bitcoin, the GBTC lawsuit against the SEC. They were able to say, hey, there's futures ETFs. Why can't there be spot ETFs? And the judge was like, absolutely, go through. You may go through, right? Or and Gary Gensler had to concur. Here, though, do not get it twisted. The BlackRock, the IBIT, or I guess IETH, whatever it would be, and the Fidelity spot Ethereum ETFs have not been withdrawn their application. It is only the Grayscale Futures Ethereum ETF that has been withdrawn today, and we're going to find out probably by the weekend why that was. They just didn't give an explanation of why they took it out. They just said we're removing it, and now a lot of heady theorists are jumping in and trying to figure out why. But there was no why given. So it's kind of at the behest of the leadership over at Grayscale to fill in the market. Hey, what the heck's going on here? Because it could be a good thing too. I'm kind of leaning towards it's not such a good thing for the market, for investors in Ethereum. Not that it's a super bad doomsday thing. It's just in the short to midterm potentially bearish is my hunch. But it could be a bullish thing. They could be pulling it out because the SEC is working with them behind the scenes, NDAing them to the T, but being like, look, we're going to pass the spot, remove the futures. That it could be just as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving along in the stories here.
Before we get too much far, let's take quite a slight pause in the normal program.
Let's do it.
I want to get as many people into this giveaway potential as possible.
Oh, sweet.
We hit 16,000 subscribers last night, and you guys know what that means. Every time we hit a new 1,000 subscriber mark, we give away $100. But today, we're going to do it a little different. And we got a lot of people watching here, so stay tuned. If you want to win $100 from the bros, this is how you're going to do it. Go to my screen here, T-Shroom. You're going to go to Twitter on X, and you're going to follow this guy right here, Caleb Franzen.
That's a good-looking
guy.
You're
going to follow this guy right here, at Tims_TA. You're going to follow this guy right here, at T-Shroom, otherwise known as Taylor Shrum, in case you did not know. And you're going to follow this one right here, at Investing Pros. You're going to tag all 4 of these users, follow all of them, and you're going to say these bros with a Z are underrated, ! And I will choose one of you guys. We'll announce it tomorrow on the show. So come back for tomorrow's show because we're going to announce the winner tomorrow. But that's how you do it. Go follow those 4 accounts, tag all 4 of them, and say these bros with a Z are underrated.
And what is it? It's $100? That's a $100 giveaway?
00, period. Man. 00.
That's awesome.
Did you guys say $100?
$100.
Oh, it was $100. Oh, man.
$100.
That's better than I deserve. Wow.
You can win $100. All right, let's get back to the news here.
Absolutely. And that $100 could absolutely go towards, your Arculus wallet. This is our partner with the Cold Wallet, Arculus. Go check them out. Links in the description. We've got a pretty funny, poppy, kind of jabby headline here. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders and Congressman Ro Khanna introduced bill to eliminate all medical debt. Now, some of you might be reading that and being like, hallelujah, that surgery I had to have 5 years ago has been hanging over my head. And then others of you are like, yeah, that'd be nice to get some medical debt wiped. But what about inflation? Inflation comes to mind, right? The rule of law, classical financial principles come to mind. What do you guys make of this? And this is breaking news from today, so just came out around 2 p.m. So what do you all think about this? I mean, you going to be beneficiaries? Are you biased?
Yeah, what are you thinking, Caleb? I'll let you go first on that one.
I'm not going to be a beneficiary.
Yeah.
It's a classic Bernie Sanders move. That's all.
Side quest question. I knew that you were pursuing or may have achieved citizenship in one of the EU countries. Is that correct?
Later this year, I'll be applying for my second citizenship in Italy. Yeah.
Okay.
Ew.
And will that come with the socialized healthcare perks?
It might. I don't really know too much about that. I mostly would just be doing it for passport reasons and
Gotcha.
Probably looking to buy a house somewhere in Italy. But
Can you become a citizen of Italy and stay? Like, I know, like, for example, like the guys that are moving to Dubai and becoming citizens of Dubai, they have to renounce their citizenship in the U.S. Does that apply to? That doesn't apply to Italy. Okay.
No,
Cool.
no. At least not as far as I know. And I don't know too much. I would just be getting, like, my grandmother's full Italian. She moved to the United States when she was 18 after she married my grandfather. So I'd be getting my citizenship by descent through her.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a special case. You have to prove ancestry to some extent.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe,
exactly.
Yeah, maybe I like Tim. Tim couldn't go become a citizen of Italy.
Yeah.
And keep.
You could.
Yes.
A lot of these countries, they have, like, you need to maybe, like, buy a property or, open a bank account with 500,000 to €1 million, something like this. You know what I mean? So
make a donation to the Labor Party of a country.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, see,
exactly.
and that's a good point to entice people about right after the stream is over here in 15-ish minutes. We're going to have our bros, our members only bros time for all of our YouTube members. You can join right now if you want, get plugged into Discord. We have topics for today. The two topics we're going to discuss, and one of them that Caleb kind of referenced right there, we're going to discuss, should you buy property or should you just hold Bitcoin? That's going to be a discussion. And then the second one's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be racy. This is why we're not going to talk about it on YouTube. Get too political on here. Is voting for RFK a wasted vote?
Oh, wow.
So we're going to have those discussions for our members only chat. It gets real in the members only chat.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Well, that is the rest of the news. I mean, this is kind of a big one. Of course, Bernie Sanders not on the conservative side of the aisle, clearly. But this could potentially pick up some momentum. Could be potentially a campaign talking point, believe it or not. To think that politicians may actually present a bill without the intention of passing it, only for it to be just a campaign talking point to divert attention from things that they might deem less favorable to be a talking point at the time, is an occurrence that we see from time to time in politics, believe it or not. We've got a factoid of the day, and that factoid is brought to you all by a new sponsor that we've been working with, a partner, and this is Afani. If there's a link in the description, you can go down and check out, and you'll see that this is Afani, America's most secure mobile service. Release yourself from the fear of SIM swaps and go ahead and check out Afani. Again, a great way to switch over and get a much more secure mobile plan. Now, bros, we have to get into the factoid of the day, which is this. The February 1763 Treaty of Paris was not signed by which nation? Great Britain, Kingdom of France, Austria, or Portugal?
The 1763 Treaty of Paris was not signed by which nation? Oh, gosh.
Which nation is not party to the Treaty of Paris, 1763? Now, I figured you all had just brushed up on your 1760s treaty.
Unfortunately, I just stopped at chapter 1762. Well, I was going to get
That's
into
where they
this
get
one
ya.
today. Gosh, Austria. Part of me wants to say Austria, but I don't. Again, I don't. What are you leaning towards, Caleb? We could split the vote, and that way at least one of us gets it right.
This one's tough. I'm thinking you got the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but that probably wasn't around in the 1760s. But I know Austria was still a big player. Portugal, definitely important. Great Britain. Dude, this one is tough. I'm also thrown off by Kingdom of France. Like,
Yeah, that is weird.
that's
Interesting.
Was it ever called the Kingdom of France, or was it just France? and this is sprinkling in some mystery. I'm going to go with B. I convinced myself it's B there. That's
All
really
right.
my guess.
Chat,
Even though it's Paris.
yeah, chat is overwhelmingly saying D, Portugal,
Okay.
but there's.
You got to lock one in here.
Because I
Tim.
want to say this treaty. I mean, obviously, the reason I don't think it's Kingdom. I think that's a weird thing that Kingdom of France got there. But this obviously is a conflict between England and France, and the reason I think Portugal might have been a part of it is because obviously Portugal's out there on the coast, to where that would have been an important detail of how France and England were going back and forth with each other. So that really makes me want to say Austria.
Okay.
And the chat doesn't agree, but I'm going to say, you know what, C, Austria.
Wow.
This
And
is
if
a
chat's
great
right,
question.
then I am just I'll cry.
Tim's sticking to his guns on this one. Will it pay off for him? It will. It's Austria, Tim.
Oh, nice.
Great job. Right here, you got the Treaty of Paris official Wikipedia page, signed in 1763. Man, the ink is probably still wet. It's been, it seems like just yesterday. But here are your signatories: Great Britain, France, Spain, and Portugal. And Caleb, I think that maybe what happened was that this emoji may have gotten copied over, and the emoji name of the emoji is Kingdom of France. So one thing I learned in my tenure in college, I was top of my class in economics, by the
Top of
way,
your class in
was
economics,
that
yeah. Very good.
I was in the Model United Nations Club, which a lot of people have their theories about the UN and everything like this. Look, it was just a bunch of LARPing for future lawyers, a bunch of poli-sci kids. I was not poli-sci, I was business, but I was in the club because it was a fun club. You get to go visit Chicago. Anyway, T-Shroom, what's the point here? I learned that many of these countries, officially, their official name in the UN is the Kingdom of France or the Republic of Iran, or, and they have all these more pithy official names. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, the Republic of Russia, or things like this. So it probably is in reference to the UN name, the official name that everybody loves. So very cool. Yeah. I think you all gave it a good effort. You both get an A for your participation.
I mean, I got it right, so I feel like I should get an A plus.
Tim gets an A plus. I get a C minus on that one. Barely a passing grade. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least you used a stop loss.
There we go. All right. Let's get some Q&A in here. We got probably like 10 minutes left on the show. Definitely, again, we get Caleb on here once a week, so prioritize the questions for Caleb. But you guys can ask anything. You ask our thoughts about the weather. You can ask our thoughts about altcoins. You can ask our thoughts about hydration. We are the most pro hydration channel of all crypto YouTubers, bar none.
It is. In fact,
I got this from the Tirana International Hotel yesterday.
Oh, wow.
4 stars too. Yeah, you take your hydration pretty seriously. There's 4 stars on there. Anything above 3 is acceptable. You really want to get to the 5 though, if you can. So let's get that better over there, Caleb.
Got to step my game up. That's what needs to be done.
This is the hotel in Albania.
Yeah, I flew into Tirana from Bucharest. I spent
this one here.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was. That was the hotel.
Yeah, the 4 stars are maybe that it's a 4-star hotel, but it may also be that it's in 4 different countries in the EU. But with all these flags, I don't know, maybe not. Yeah. With all these flags, maybe it's in more countries than just the 4. The big Albanian 4.
You know who did not sign the Treaty of Paris of
Switzerland?
1763 was Albania. Albania
really?
Did not sign that either. Yeah.
Yeah, they were holdouts. And look how it turned out for him, you know? I think we all learned a lesson with that one.
We got some good questions here. I want to start off though, Under the Gun with Crypto Bullets. Great name. We'll start off by saying great name. He did say revisit Lark, bros. He's working on a water sponsor. Good for him. We cover all the realms though of hydration. Water's important, but for example, in my cup here, labeled Brody's Daddy, I have element in here. Why? Because if you drink too much water, you actually will dilute all of the minerals in your body and you'll become dehydrated. In fact, one of the leading causes of dehydration is actually drinking too much water and you don't have a good salt balance. So Lark, get you some water. The bros, we want to educate you guys on the real hydration, and that is a correct balance of water to salt. Go get your element today. We're not sponsored. We have no link for them, but we do take hydration very seriously. Question from username for Caleb said, hey, Caleb, username here. He wanted to add that in there as well, just in case you misconstrued him with somebody else. Just wondering, what are your take on long hikes alongside the mountains? So that's question 1A. And then question B, the real question, should I buy Link?
Okay, so I am in Montenegro, which literally means Black Mountains. So I will hopefully be climbing some mountains during my time here. Growing up in Santa Barbara, the Riviera of California, I used to go hiking all the time. So it's a great pastime of mine. I'll definitely be doing some hiking. Okay, talking about Link though. Look, for me, Link is not really, this looks like Tivat, or no, that's not Tivat. That looks like Herceg-Novi, which is, well, maybe that's not even, maybe that's Paras. I have no idea. Look, Montenegro, beautiful, beautiful place. They have all those like terracotta roofs like that, white buildings. It's gorgeous. Let's talk about Link. I had that chart up on it earlier.
Whenever I think Montenegro, I do think Chainlink, just for the record. So
yeah, of course. I mean, I'd be surprised if you didn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Look, I need to see Link get back above 16 before I start to feel a degree of confidence that this can maintain upside. Look, as the saying goes, the more you retest a level, the weaker it gets. Look how many times we've retested this red support zone, right? And to me, this looks a lot like what INJ was doing not too long ago, where very similar. Oh, I deleted it today because I did this post. I had a line drawn right here, going from this zone through here. And look, I mean, we kept using this green level as dynamic support, right? And eventually that broke down. And to me, that looks a lot like what Link is doing right now. Something very, very similar. So look, great news. This level continues to act as support. But like I said, the more we retest it, the weaker it gets. And as I also said, my biggest concern is that we're not trading back above this 100, 200-day moving average cloud. When we have Bitcoin that is trading above that 100, 200 moving average cloud, when we have Ethereum, I think Ethereum might be trading right on it. Exactly. We have Solana trading above it. These look much more constructive, in my opinion. Could we break down below those levels? Yes, we could. But right now, I would much rather prioritize the names that are showing strength. Another one, I feel like I always come on and talk about this, is Render. Everything is selling off right now, by the way, guys. Are you seeing this also? What's going on here? Well, Bitcoin is holding up. What's going on with Total 3? I'm seeing everything. Those daily candles look pretty nasty. We've given back some gains here in the last hour and a half or so. Interesting. Let's go back to Render, though, really quickly, going back to that daily chart. So again, look at Render. This looks totally different than Link, right? Not only do we defend this level 3 times, we're trading well above that 100, 200-day moving average cloud. Let's look at FET. This is going to be showing a very, very similar look, trading above that 100, 200 cloud. Let's look at Doge, right? I had also mentioned these meme coins continue to trade above their 100, 200 cloud. That's very different than what we're seeing in the other L1s and the other L2s, right? Like, again, let's look at Polkadot. Polkadot right now trading below that 100, 200 cloud. You can see this level act as support, breakdown, resistance. That's concerning. I haven't even looked at this one yet, so this is going to be a test to see if this is actually accurate analysis. Let's look at Polygon and Matic. Massive breakdown below that 100, 200 cloud. We're not even retesting it as dynamic resistance. That shows you just how weak this trend is, right? What's another one? Let's look at Algorand. Haven't pulled this one up in a while. Below the 100, 200 cloud, right? These are much nastier looks than what those other ones that are trading above, Sandbox, trading well below it, Decentraland, Mana, well below it, right? All of this is getting very, very concerning. So when we think about Chainlink right now, looking the exact same as all these other altcoins, it's not showing me anything different that's telling me why it deserves to be attracting my invested capital right now. I need to see it get above 16.
Gotcha. That's Chainlink for you. So
Yeah.
at a discount, but a little bit riskier in the cycle because it could continue to go down. And we like to buy low and sell high. Right now, you'd be buying and with the potential for the price to go lower. I like that analysis, though. Tim, did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, so Caleb and I have slightly different ways of what we want to look for. He likes to see a lot more confirmation before he buys in than I do, but I think his analysis is still dead on. I agree with him. You can't argue with the fact that we're below the 200 moving average, and the fact that that is something that should play a role in people's minds, that you don't really have the confidence until you get back above it. But I said earlier, I think that a lot of altcoins are going to be taking 20% dips, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe pushing towards 30. I think there's a good chance that if you are looking to buy a dip, if you are someone who says, you know what, I'm going to buy blood in the street, I think there's a good chance you're going to get an opportunity to buy it below $12 again. There's an outside chance. You show my screen here real quick, but I've mentioned this. This is probably more than likely along the same realm of if Bitcoin hits 48K, which I'm not necessarily at this point predicting with certainty. But let's just say Bitcoin goes 48K. I think there's an outside chance you see Chainlink come back down to $9.50, give or take, back to a very strong level of resistance that we had for not just months, but years. And then guess what? Right here, when we had that explosive October rally, we blasted through this resistance and then never came back anywhere close to it. So even if you look at the history of Chainlink, we've done this before. Strong resistance, we break up, go really high, come back down and test it several times before the bull market takes off. I still think Chainlink has a good bull market. I'm still one of the people who thinks that Chainlink could be one of the it factor altcoins this bull market where people go back and say, do you remember what Chainlink did back in 2024, 2025? I think there's an outside chance it creeps in the top 5 of altcoins as a whole. And guess what? This is a coin that when it has the backing of BlackRock, the fact that it is a real world asset, the crypto, what's the right word I'm looking for? I'm blanking on it. When you talk about AI, real world assets,
Narratives?
layer 2s, narratives, it might be in my opinion. I think real world assets are going to be the number one narrative moving forward in this bull market. I think Chainlink does melt faces, but I'm not going to argue with and say that what Caleb's saying is nuts, because it's not nuts. As long as you're below the 200, there is that concept of saying, well, you're not above it, and technically speaking, it could be serving as resistance. Be aware of it. I'm a little more risky, I think, than it sounds like Caleb is, and that's fair. Everyone has their own level of risks. Guess what, guys? Caleb doesn't trade the way I trade or the way other people trade, and yet he still makes money. So who am I to argue with his strategy whatsoever? Everyone's got to figure out their own. Some are risky, some are not risky. Kind of figure out for yourself. I am a fan of Link, but I love what Caleb brought up there, and I agree with him. It'll feel a lot better when we get back over 200.
Yeah. There's a classic saying on Wall Street, nothing good happens below the 200-day moving average, right? So just, I think even for me, sometimes I take a really kind of short-term perspective. For me, I would much rather be aligned with a strong trend rather than speculate on what the trend might be 2, 4, 6 weeks down the line. So for me, I want to just be aligned with the strongest trends and try to ride that wave of momentum. But right now, Chainlink isn't showing me that it's a wave of momentum that I can ride and surf along. So it's just off limits at this moment, right? So
gotcha.
I'd rather focus on the names that are still showing some leadership in this market and relative to their past performance are still exhibiting good upside dynamics.
I love it. Getting a nice diversity of opinion here on the investing bros. I like how you said it, Caleb. You do tend to be more of a short-term investor, short-term trader. You're kind of looking at the chart. Famously, I really like the way you put this. You're looking at the chart that's in front of you, not the chart that could be, right?
Exactly.
So everybody's got a different approach, a different style, and that's why we love having you on, because you bring a little bit of a different angle, a little different take on these markets. And if we were all here saying the same thing, we only would really need to have one of us. So absolutely love it.
We're gonna wrap up the show here. It's 4:15. We're about to jump over into our members only stream, but Performance Fuel Injection said tomato and shroom juice with a side of Caleb. So there's your healthy diet right there of crypto. Make sure on your way out, guys, smash the like button for the video. If you enjoyed the channel, hit subscribe so you don't miss a single piece of content that we put out. There will be an ICP update coming out tonight at 6 p.m. You don't want to miss it. I break down what the next couple of weeks should look like based off what the charts are saying. And also, if you've not done already, go over to X and do what I said earlier. To win the $100 giveaway from the 16,000 subscribers we just passed, you got to follow myself, T-Shroom, Caleb, and the Investing Bros account, and comment "These bros with a Z are underrated," and you'll be entered to win $100. If you want to know where those links are, go to the description down below the video you're watching right now. All of them are right there. With that said, Caleb, thank you for being here again on this fantastic Hump Wednesday. The rest of you, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Adi.
Gross.
Tryna make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Tryna make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.